So, welcome back to Setting the Table with Dr. Shani. I am continuing from my last video where I talked to you guys about the role and the function of macronutrients. We went over the three major ones, which would be protein, carbs, and fats. And in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to calculate your basal metabolic rate, which is the base number of calories that you need in order for your body to function in its resting state. And then that would follow into how to calculate how many calories you need for the day, as well as how to calculate how many macros you need based on the number of calories that you need and based on your weight loss goals or weight gain goals. So we're starting first with telling you a little bit about the basal metabolic rate, which is the first calculation that we're gonna do. In order for you to calculate the basal metabolic rate, which is basically how much energy your body needs in its resting state when it's not digesting any food or when you're not doing any activity. It's just how much energy your body needs just basically to exist, right? And the formula that I have used, which I find is most reliable, is known as the Mifflin-St Jeor Equation, right? And you're gonna see it on the screen shortly, but it has a few constants or factors that we use to multiply the different parameters that we're gonna be using. So we definitely have to have your weight, and you have to have your height and your age, right? And so just a little bit about the equation and the factors that you're going to be using. So you have to have your weight and height, because that is how we have an idea of what your mass is. And the more mass that you have, then the more energy your body needs or requires in order for you to meet your particular goals, whether it is weight gain, weight loss, or maintenance. Age matters because your metabolic rate falls as you increase in age, especially over the age of 30. Your metabolic rate drops by about 5 to 10% per decade after age 30. And so in order to help with this mass, or in order to help with this decline in muscle mass, you can do things like strength training along the way, especially if you're over 30 and you're trying to lose weight. You should, or even if you're trying to gain weight, you should ideally be doing some amount of strength training per week. Maybe 1 to 3 days would be helpful, right? Even if you're just maintaining your weight. Your gender also influences your body composition. The females tend to have a lower mass or basal metabolic rate than males, so that also plays a part. I'm gonna get right into it. I'm gonna show you how to calculate, or what the formula is to calculate this basal metabolic rate. So for males, it is 10 times the weight in kilograms plus 6.25 times the height in centimeters minus 5 times age plus 5. And for the females, it is 10 times the weight plus 6.25 times height minus 5 times age minus 161. And this is the basal metabolic rate in calories per day. So I'm going to use an example just so we're on the same page, so everybody's on the same page. We're going to work with a female who's 140 pounds and is 5 feet 8 inches, right? So using the example that we have, we plug our figures into the calculator, ensuring that you convert the weight into kilograms. So you divide it by 2.2 and you convert the feet and inches into centimeters. You'd get the basal metabolic rate for this young lady to be 1,428 calories per day. So that means that she needs 1,428 calories in order to just exist with no digestion, no activity. If in a hypothetical world all she was doing was absolutely nothing. This is how much energy her body would need in order to just survive, right? So there are some well-established factors, what they call activity factors, that you use in order to calculate the total daily energy expenditure that a person would use for the day, right? They're gonna come up now, and this is what is required in order for you to maintain your body composition, right? So it's called the TDEE, Total Daily Energy Expenditure, right? So the activity factors is anywhere between, well, about 1.2 is used for persons who have a sedentary lifestyle. You know, you may have an office job, you primarily sit around a desk for 12 to 18 hours. The only activity that you would get up and do is any, office, walking around to and from different offices, or maybe you walk your dog. So these are for persons who don't have a very active lifestyle. The next factor is 1.375, and these are for persons who have light activity. So they may work out maybe 1 to 2 times per week. Persons with an activity of maybe moderate, maybe 3 to 5 times per week, their activity factor is approximately 1.5. For persons who have a more active lifestyle and they work out 6 to 7 times per week, then their activity factor 1.725. For like professional athletes like your Usain Bolt in his prime, right? You're top tier, working out 2 times a day, you're running every weekend. Yeah, okay, so your activity level is 1.9. Okay, so in order for you to calculate your TDEE, you're gonna take your basal metabolic rate that you calculated from before and multiply it by one of the activity factors that fits your lifestyle. So let's say that this particular young lady has an activity factor of 1.55. Let's say she works out maybe 4 times for the week. Maybe she does a run or a jog on the weekend. So her activity factor is 1.55, right? So we calculate that by multiplying her basal metabolic rate by 1.55, and that gives you 2,213 calories per day. So that means her maintenance, in order for her to maintain her body composition with her exercise that she's doing, she needs 2,213 calories per day, right? So let's see now. Let's say that you need to now determine what's your goal. Do you want to gain weight or do you want to lose weight? So let's say her goal is to lose weight, and let's say she wants to lose approximately 1 pound per week. So it is said that you have to burn 3,500 calories in order to lose 1 pound, right? So if I want to lose 1 pound, then I have to burn 3,500 calories per week. So let's break that down. We're going to divide 3,500 by 7. You have 7 days for the week, and that will give you 500 calories per day. That 500 calories is the calorie deficit that person would need to be in order to lose a pound per week. So you're going to subtract from the 2,213 calories per day, you're going to subtract 500. And when you subtract that, you get 1,713 calories per day. And that is that young lady's calorie deficit in order for her to lose 1 pound per week. Now, persons may say, I want to lose, that's not enough. I want to lose more than that per week. Or let's say you wanted to gain weight. Instead of you subtracting it, you would add it to the figure that she had, the 2,213. Right? And so that would make you put on or gain 1 pound per week. Right? In my opinion, this is not a professional opinion, but in my opinion, I don't think it is particularly safe or sustainable for someone to lose more than a pound per week. Maybe if you are aggressive, with no chronic illnesses, and you're eating, whole foods, then maybe you can increase that calorie deficit to maybe 800 calories per day. But I really don't think that is sustainable beyond the 500 calories per day. After a while, you do get hungry and you are more likely to binge on something that is familiar to you, or you're more likely to just not be able to sustain that weight loss over a prolonged period of time, right? So in that same young lady, her calorie deficit, we would have said, is 1,713 calories per day, right? With a 500 calorie deficit, right? In order for her to lose 1 pound per week. Now, how would you determine how many macros, so how many proteins, how much fats, how much carbs, based on that calorie deficit you need to eat per day? Now, that is how you calculate the macros per day. So I'm going to show you how to calculate it here. You'll see something come up here. So let's say the same lady, she's 140 pounds and she wants to lose 5 pounds overall. So her goal weight is 135 pounds. So for these formulas, you have to use your goal weight to calculate the next set of macros that you'll be using, right? So for proteins, you're going to use a factor of between 0.8 to 2.2, right, grams per pound, and you're going to multiply that by the goal weight. Anywhere from 0.8 to 2.2 grams per pound times your goal weight for protein, right? And that would be, I'm going to use 1 gram just to make the calculation simple. So 1 gram times 135, which would be the pounds that she wants to get to. So that would be 135 grams of protein. For fat, you would use 0.4 grams per pound times the goal weight. So 0.4 times 135 is 54 grams of fat, which is how much you would need to consume in a day in order to meet her weight loss goals. 1 gram of protein has 4 calories in it, right? And this is to get how many calories you should consume of protein in the 135 grams of protein. 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. So we multiply the 54 grams of fat by 9, and that will give you 486 calories from fat. Okay. So for carbs, we're not multiplying anything. So for carbs, so we're going to add the 540 and the 486, and that would give 1,026. And remember, her total calories that we should be eating for her deficit was 1,713. So we subtract the 1,026 from the 1,713, and that would give you 687. And so you would have 687 calories from carbs to eat in order for her to remain in her calorie deficit of 500 calories, right? So for this 34-year-old 140-pound 5'8" female, in order for her to meet her weight loss goals, she would need to consume 1,713 calories in a 500 calorie deficit, with consuming 135 grams of protein, 54 grams of fat, and a caloric value of 687 calories. And you can divide 687 by 4 to get 171, which would give you the number of carbs that you're to eat to meet your goals. Even though I showed you all of these calculations, there are formulas or apps online, the web pages online, that do calculate how many calories you need in order to maintain or lose or gain weight. And there are apps that calculate how much macros you should be eating based on your calorie maintenance versus calorie deficit or surplus, right? And they're really simple. All you need is your weight, height, age, and the type of activity that you have, and it calculates it for you very simply. However, you still may wonder, so when I have all this information, how do I apply this to my meals? How do I actually know what to eat now? So in my next video, you're gonna see, I'm gonna show you how to read nutrition labels, which is something that people might take for granted and be like, oh, this is really simple. But a lot of people misinterpret things because of how companies label their items and how food is packaged. People misinterpret readings, or just completely, it's an oversight on their part. And the companies are very tricky in how they package foods. Like, they're really trying to trick you into thinking that you're eating something that is supposedly healthy, but it may really not be healthy, especially for the goals that you may have for yourself. So I'm gonna just show you a number of random different food items, and we're just gonna go through how we read and interpret the food labels, right? And then however, if you need some additional assistance in terms of calculating your macros, calculating your calories for the day, and translating that into a meal plan for your goals, then I'm gonna leave a link in my bio. It's a Google form to a document which you can fill out, which has majority of this type of information, asking you to complete it for yourself. And if you just send me a message via DM on Instagram or on YouTube, then I will just check my email and I will calculate all the things necessary for you and come up with a food plan based on, or a meal plan based on what you've shared, right? And just select basic meal plan and we can get started. My nutrition plans are customizable, but they are great for persons who have chronic illnesses and are basically just struggling to figure out what is a good thing to eat, what is good for them to eat. Also, persons on a weight loss journey, and even those with dietary restrictions. There are two options. There is the basic plan and the intensive plan, and you can see the comparisons on the screen. So if you're interested, just comment below or find me on Instagram and you can DM me and complete the form and we can get started.